You are about to receive messages that may be harmful to your mental state. Your sense of reality will be questioned. Your view on things will be altered. You are now part of the meta. The meta controls everything. The meta determines what will and will not happen. You are watching The Meta Show.
Now.
Hello, hello, hello.
Hello, everyone.
We're back. Oh my. Well, this is exciting. We have Matterall here today. I'm waiting to see how ridiculous I look on live TV because, as usual, there's a slight delay between what I see with my smug mug here on the green screen and then
you look fine
broadcast. Oh, I do look fine now. Okay, well.
Yeah, you're good. You should be good.
Excellent.
Now.
We actually managed to get the green screen working this time. What is this? This is madness.
Well,
but I don't see a stick figure.
Oh yeah, I gotta make a stick figure for Matterall. Well, I gotta. That's
we do actually have Matterall here with us. Matterall, do you want to say hello, or are we you occupied at the moment?
Yeah, I'll say hello. I'm just.
Yay!
Yeah.
Excellent. He is literally phoning this one in. It's fantastic.
Hey, a new subscriber! Yay! Thank you.
Actually, so Uller Eggleston, who we actually met and was hanging out on the yacht over the weekend. Actually, we got to meet Uller again. I met him originally a couple years ago at another EVE event, and he managed to make it to the Imperium's little yacht festival on Saturday in San Diego. Yachting responsibly is very important. I managed to fall off the top deck, or actually all the way down. You can see yachting responsibly, boys and girls, is very important. I'm pretty much covered in bruises.
God.
It's good stuff.
Like,
the one on my back is even worse.
That bruise, though, like, holy shit.
Well, we were underway, and we had 68 people on the boat, right? And we were out in the bay, and I wiped out, right? So that was those were actually. That was a ladder, not stairs. But so I was going down the wrong way, and I just wiped out in front of absolutely everybody. So I picked myself up on the ground. I'm like, do I have a compound fracture? Nope. Okay, I'm covered in my Moscow Mule. I'm gonna go downstairs and change clothes and get back because I didn't want to have us, turn the boat around because.
Yeah, someone says there was yacht
sticking out of it.
So yeah, we have access to a wonderful yacht out in San Diego, and every time that people go out there, they just go on the yacht and hang out.
Rum Waffle has resubbed 23 months. Thank you very much. Woo! And Uller ended up on the boat the next day after I had wiped out so spectacularly. But one of the things about Uller's sub is that he used Twitch Prime. So one of the things that we're doing here in the Imperium now is we are collecting what we call Bezos Bucks. So now if you want to support the channel in the traditional way with a subscription, that's awesome. If you want to support the channel in a way that is free and you have an Amazon Prime account, you can press a couple buttons here on the site and get a free subscription once a month for thematani.com or whoever you choose, but obviously we want you to give your free Bezos Bucks to us, which we will use it for only good things, such as having Mittens fall off stairs in
Yeah, I don't even know, dude. Wait,
I
mean, you weren't intoxicated, right? At all? Yeah.
It was actually it's basically a ladder,
steep,
right? It's
yeah.
really, it's a very steep thing, and we were underway, so I wasn't even really drunk at that point. Like, I had a Moscow Mule in my hand, which ended up all over me. It's funny because it looks really nasty, like it doesn't hurt at all, but it just looks brutal, and that was last Friday for you. So please yacht responsibly, boys and girls.
It's all right. I will let you fall over in Vegas this year. So it'll be fine.
That's good. Yeah, Vegas, I won't be. I'm never going to make that mistake again. But anyway, so that's a little tangent there because we got to meet Uller and wanted to talk about the whole Bezos Bucks thing.
That was a perfect segue. Yeah, that's
good
wonderful.
segue. I'm an expert. One could say a professional. As
Alrighty then. So yeah, welcome to the Meta Show, guys. Last week, again, as we found out, Matani here was falling down at TwitchCon. TwitchCon was a lot.
But then I got up again.
Bits, but for those that don't know, another thing about the Amazon Prime thing is Amazon has taken over Twitch. They're putting a lot of effort and work into Twitch. It's looking really good. I'm excited. But that's just TMC stuff. So forward on, we talk about Alliance Tournament. Alliance Tournament season has begun. It started October 1st. Started last weekend while you were gone. PL in one of their matches brought out a Raven State issue or a State issue Raven, whatever you want to call it. The really rare. Like, only 2 exist in the game ship. I think the last one sold for 275 billion ISK. It's the heaviest hitting ship in the game. That's a subcapital. Does like it could do like 6,000 tank. It's ridiculous. It's not even their flagship.
Did they manage to keep it alive?
Oh yeah, it did die. But that match, they lost an Atana. So not only did they have this big ass Raven out there, then they brought the Atana out, and the Atana died. The team that killed the Atana lost their whole group, but they killed the Atana, which is like 100 billion ship.
That's good. Well, I mean, the Alliance tournament becomes just sort of like a demolition derby for these ships, which don't really get used all that much. I mean, and then later on, we had what is it? We had NC just lost to Cambion, didn't they?
Yeah. So this week, CCP took over. So last week was kind of like the radio broadcast, but even T broadcasted it live, and they did an amazing job. Like their commentary was on point. Everything was wonderful. This week, CCP takes over, and it's like 3 people talking: a dev, some random dude, and then another dev, and then of course the commentators. And NC versus PL was the big match of the day. I don't even think I watched any other match. And during that match, a Cambion was lost, which for those that don't know is the Alliance tournament frigate that looks like a worm. I don't even know. I mean, I guess it's like a worm, but it uses rockets and it's deadly. Like it can really mess things up. But during the match, it fucked up. It decided just to charge out on its own, and immediately got swatted away by a couple of Sleipnirs. And some.
So that was just a piloting error?
Yeah, it looked like it was a piloting error. But the way the match looked, and this is just my opinion, but at the very end you had a Caracal. He was flying off on his own. The Caracal was doing great. All NC had to do at the end was stay alive, right? They're fighting a Scorpion versus a couple of kitey ships. Like it was 2 Caracals, a Cerberus, and a Vigil. The Scorpion could not kill the Vigil, so he went for the Caracal. The Caracal's going 2,100 meters a second. He's going around just fine, and then all of a sudden he stops moving and proceeds to die with like 30 seconds left, and that was it. PL wins. So apparently the commentator was Zarvox, but I don't know who that is.
Well, here's a question. Do you actually have... I heard there's lots of boundary violations in this match.
Yeah, so during that match...
Elise giggling about how no corporation in EVE Online has had more successful boundary violations, as it were.
Yeah.
Also, Killjoy Doc, thank you very much
thanks
for subscribing using our Bezos Buck system, using Twitch Prime.
Awesome.
You get a free sub once a month. Thank you.
So, PL had 2 ships just drive out the match tournament wall. Like, they were on the edge, and off they went. It's kind of like a tradition in PL where they basically looked like they were going to lose because they were winning, and all of a sudden, boom, there goes the ship, and it's like, oh fuck, now they got 1 ship left. So yeah, they fucked up pretty bad. It was hilarious. Enjoy the Bezo Bucks. Yeah, sure, we will. Thank you. So that's what happened. But last week, I think the most controversial part of this match, and it spread to more than just our Eve. This is the link to the thread on our Eve, but there was another thread about game developing, and I can't find it for some reason, but basically, Tissue was invited to the tournament. They were one of the teams that was invited because they paid for it. At the end of the day, Tissue failed cascaded recently, so they just said, fuck it, we're not going to the Alliance tournament. CCP told them if they didn't go, they'd be permabanned from all future Alliance tournaments, any of their members. So they said, okay, fuck it, we're going to go, and we're going to make it a joke. But they took a joke a little too far. As in true Lex Arson fashion, his entire fleet of ships was fit with a Gas the Jews joke.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I'm looking at this here right now. So, I mean, Lex Arson, of course, most recently popped up on our radar in addition to losing a whole bunch of Titans that Tissue had in Build and Cloud Ring to the Imperium. Right. He also managed to repeatedly get up on stage, not on stage as it were, but on Twitter, and at every opportunity he could to make Benghazi jokes. Right. So I guess he's just classily, just following along in his classy, hey, look at me. Well, I mean, it's just sort of a desperate, big dogs don't need to bark thing. And when you see somebody who's constantly like Benghazi, or 1488, or this whole business, it's just, it's like a guy who's going through a midlife crisis with a bright red sports car. You go, okay, well, this dude has a micro penis, right? He's got to get the attention, and he's 3 edgy, 5 me, as it were. So, I mean, I guess I could say that I'm outraged or shocked by this, but this is Lex Arson we're talking about here.
What makes this even, I guess, worse is that Lex defends what he did with, well, you told us we had to participate, and since you forced us to participate, we did it our way. And
of course he'll defend it. I mean, he defended the Benghazi stuff too, right. When they were running around and renaming
CCP,
stations by that.
It doesn't look like they've been banned yet. I don't know what'll come with this. CCP did comment in the thread saying that they're looking into it, and they thought it was kind of poor play. And I guess during the commentating, I wasn't watching the live event. I haven't found the video of it yet, but apparently the CCP stopped the match and then had a little chatting to with everyone, saying, "Look, this ain't gonna happen again. Don't let it happen again."
That's good, at least.
So yeah, CCP did a good job there. But I think if they aren't banned yet, because this, again, he's done this outside of the game, and CCP can't ban you for outside the game shit, right? But he did it in the game.
Well, they can. I mean, the thing is that the reality is
Right.
CCP will ban you for whatever they want, right?
Well,
Like, the
yeah.
thing is, like, they will bend the EULA because they control the EULA, and there's no actual, like, force of law when it comes to EULA. So if they want to do something, they can. And
Right,
so if
right.
they don't do something, that means that they have chosen not to. Simple. Like
Yeah.
the bonus room, that whole situation there, I mean, as much as we despise the bonus room people, and I think that they are garbage people, and what they did was really shitty. You know, I have been banned for shitty things that I did outside of EVE, and so I think it's entirely reasonable for people to say, you know, even this was clearly in the game, right?
Right.
This is
Yeah.
unquestionably in the game.
Yeah.
Other things that Tissue has done has been within the game, like with the Benghazi station renaming, all that. What he does on Twitter is separate from that. But you know, this is sadly not surprising. I guess we'll just have to see what CCP does.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. So that's pretty much the Alliance tournament. Again, it's been pretty straightforward. PL winning their matches. People that are kind of designed to win their matches have been winning their matches. So.
So what happens with NC Dot now, actually?
So they fall into like a loser's bracket. So
Okay.
now that PL wins, they continue on, and then NC Dot falls down one notch.
But they're not like out.
No,
Also,
they're not out.
for some
No.
reason, like the
Yeah, I fixed it. I fixed it. Matterall
it was like
call
falling
dropped,
off the edge.
so his phone must
I
have
see.
dropped or
So
something.
all of the Skype stuff changed.
Yeah, yeah.
So basically, what we're dealing with here, and in terms of Alliance Tournament stuff, guys, I am not the world's best Alliance Tournament commentator.
Oh,
In
me
fact,
either,
I
yeah.
am famous within Goonswarm for at one point sending the fee for the Alliance Tournament for Goonswarm's team to go to CCP Engineering Alliance. So a few years ago, when you saw our man John Zastro commentating on the Alliance Tournament, he was wearing a I support CCP Engineering Alliance because even though we had a team ready to go, I sent the fee to the wrong place. You were not actually supposed to send it to CCP Engineering Alliance because I'm very much just a war kind of guy. But if anybody has questions or comments about that in chat, we would love to hear it because I'm sure that there's actually a lot of fairly
Yeah,
interesting meta stuff in the Alliance Tournament, but I'm just not my zone of expertise.
Yeah, as far as I've been watching, there have been a lot of like Barkris this year. The really like looks like a giant fry pan that shoots missiles, and a lot of shield fleets. They've removed the tinkering concept because you can no longer cap transfer to someone outside of like a Logi. So like if your Logi isn't cap transferring, no like battleship can cap transfer. So you can't have a tinker setup. People have tried to do a tinker setup without the cap transfer. They've all failed. There's been a bunch of flagships used. Most notably was, of course, Brave Newbies, which is an alliance you wouldn't think would have much income. Managed to pull out a pretty expensive 10 billion-ish flagship.
How much was the NC Dot flagship? Because they lost their Bilgorn, didn't they?
Yeah,
At
that
the same time, they lost
hasn't.
their Cambion.
Yeah, that hasn't popped up yet. There was this Exodus Balgorn, which was 35 billion-isk.
Yikes.
That happened today. Wow, that actually happened today. I didn't notice that. So yeah, there's been some expensive toys thrown away.
Poor
let's
boat
see.
was stuck in an Illum meeting, but
Yeah,
some jerk
so
forced him to go
the
to
Bar
every Saturday.
Crest was 34.5 billion, so it didn't make the top 5, but yeah, it was
Nice.
balling out. Holy shit! I just don't understand, man. You spend hundreds of billions on an alliance tournament just to finish. Like, if you don't finish top 4, you're out all that money.
Well, I
Like,
mean,
I
I think
don't-
it's one of those things where for some people, and this is one of the things that's nice about EVE is that everybody plays in a different way, which is
Right.
why it's always funny when in wars people are saying you or these guys are playing the wrong way. The Alliance Tournament has its own metagame, and the Alliance Tournament has an entire sort of clique of people who are obsessed with it, and for them that is EVE, right? Like this is their NASCARs. They want to be the winners. They want to be the best of the best. Goonswarm historically has not given a single fuck because we only care about war and conquest and victory in nullsec. But in this realm, like the Alliance Tournament is like a big deal.
Yeah, so like the big thing about this too is, so I was talking to Lise on Friday. He stopped by my show, and I was like, is PL going to win this pretty easily? Is NCR just going to say fuck it and forfeit? And he said no. DHB Wildcat, who flew the flagship Barkrist, apparently was really pissed off at PL and wanted to beat them. And for some reason, there was a little bit of love-hate there. So I don't know exactly the details of that outside of what Elise was talking about. So that was an interesting match to watch. I actually enjoyed watching it. Who knows if that Caracal pilot messed up or something, but if they would have won,
Well,
it would have been great.
It is actually, whoa, here we go. My head is going to go
Yay!
flying across the stream. Matterall has rejoined us, so we're going to fiddle with Skype here for a second. But one of the things that's a good segue here, talking about NC Dot being in the loser's bracket but still being in the tournament, is this segues into Internet Spaceship news, because, of course, we have all of this chaos happening in the Northwest, which used to be Imperium territory. Now we are in, of course, the Southwest. But NC Dot and NC Dot and Pandemic Horde have been going after CO2 and Test and escalating a series of mainly just AoE Titan Doomsday things, with Poison Kevin dropping 3 Ragnaroks on anything that moves, and God bless. But as long as, what we want to know is essentially, is that low intensity conflict going to continue, or is it going to heat up now that NC Dot are in the losers bracket? Are they going to be turning their attention more towards Eve? And if only we had somebody from NC Dot who would be able to comment on this. Matterall, what do you think? Good segue.
I don't know if I'm the most qualified person to comment, but as far as NC being in the tournament, I thought was really interesting, because that's the one area where they kind of lack the credibility, if you will, of the big alliance names, right? Like PL has supers, has all kinds of soft power, and is very influential, and so is NC. But PL has a really good history with the alliance tournament, and then NC is kind of trying to, I think, capture that, which would be great for us, because it would kind of solidify, our place on the stage. Now, if you think about NC as kind of old Bob, then that already happened, because Bob had a dynasty in the 1 through 3 alliance tournaments. But
it's good to know here that it's good to know here that, of course, we cannot, as an effective alliance or a big name alliance, you're not actually a big name alliance unless you have one alliance tournament. So that's very unfortunate, because Goonswarm yet again is relegated to the dustbin of history. Anyway, Matterall is shifting towards discussing the war and how this might impact it, and I busted in there, so please continue.
No, you're right. Just the alliance tournament has a certain cachet as far as recruiting and stuff like that. Like, people want to be a part of that elite squad. If you can have that in addition to the might that these bigger alliances have, that's kind of a bonus for you. As for the stuff that's going on in Tribute, which is the war with NC Horde as well, taking on it looks like CO2 and Test, and maybe OSS as well, and plus some other alliances, I think. That's definitely a displacement war. So there's going to be people fighting for their lives there. NC is coming in to move basically CO2 out. So far it's been a good fight.
I was unaware of that, because we weren't really sure whether they were just sort of farming CO2. So you're saying, because there's been some sovereign enforcement and some not. So Tribute recently has been hit again. I think because the Alliance tournament, there hasn't been too much activity in the last couple of weeks when this thing kicked off. But if NC Dot wants to displace CO2 for real, that means that, I think the thing that everybody's looking at here is CO2 has a keep star, right? Ooh. Is NC Dot going to try to have the first proper nullsec kill of a keep star?
Well, I don't know. You can always negotiate arrangements to have it brought down. I don't know how that's going to work out, but if this is going to be hostile, that may be the case, yeah.
Oh, man.
Well, I think
I can't for leadership on NC on this.
Yeah, we don't want you to spill the beans or do anything like that, but we haven't seen too much. So one of the things that's curious about this war so far is not only how little has actually taken place in terms of SOV, but there's been a lot of T3 fleets getting vaporized. Poison Kevin, again, like I was saying earlier, took out a Test Hurricane and a CO2 T3 fleet, just vaped them with AoE Doomsdays. I think that was yesterday when that happened. And Bode, if you want to link that in the channel for guys to see it.
Yep.
But on top of that, one of the things that we saw was ProGod Legend wrote an update for Test, saying essentially that if Tribute falls, and it's probably going to fall, that we need to be prepared to lose Vale. And even though nothing had really been touched in Vale of the Silent, which is where Test lives, at all, I think this was about 4 days ago, ProGod Legend was already like, oh my god, run for the hills, which is sort of this weird disconnect between the actual activity on the field. Like, we're seeing fleets getting blown up, but not too much SOB activity, and nobody's made a run at this keep star yet. And, just panic from Test.
What's even more interesting about this, too, is that as CO2 and Horde Test keep pointing out, is not a single system in Tribute has been touched. They haven't lost any high hubs, any TCUs, any stations. And if they have lost them,
popped the Umi hub.
They did, but it went right back.
They got the Umi hub. Right, but the strategic index was reduced, so that's the thing. Is they can get rid of the, you can get rid of the iHub first, but that reduces the ADM, which makes that particular. I mean, the core of the tribute where everybody is fighting is going to be Umi TAC KK.
Yeah.
That is currently in full reinforcement as we speak. The iHub isn't reinforced, and it looks like it only has just a garbage ADM. So both the outposts and the TCU are currently in reinforced in Umi, and I'm going to drop that link here for the guys in chat.
I'm trying to find the battle report that's best. All right, here we go. CO2 got BFG. So the best thing about this, too, is that while the Solve hasn't changed hands, CO2 has been getting obliterated. And what I mean by obliterated, they lost an entire T3 cruiser fleet to an AoE Doomsday, along with Test. Now, what's interesting is that Test are, instead of going with a proper fleet, and Test is known to have several proper fleets, such as Maelstroms and T3s, they've been doing Hurricanes in this war. They've been fighting Horde Hurricanes versus Test Hurricanes. The difference being, Horde has the backing of a giant BFG. And that BFG, as you can see by the results here, they have just been getting obliterated. Like, absolutely. Like, there's not even a question. This is worse than... this reminds me of the old AoE Doomsdays. If you were around during then, I mean, it just...
Unfortunately,
a Titan appears, and with TiDi the way it is, if he fires it correctly... you're done, because it continuously fires. So the way the BFG works, for the people watching the show that don't know, is it fires a cone. Very short range, but it does 10,000 damage every second for 30 seconds. It does an absolute shitload of damage. When I used it the other day, it brought a carrier to half armor. That was an armor carrier, right? It just does a lot of damage. But for smaller ships, they're supposed to be able to SIG tank this thing, but that doesn't work like that. Because as the numbers go down, it's still continuously firing for 30 seconds, so it can be used like a pipe bomb. Well, in this case, what NCDOT's been doing is they've been using it like an old AoE Doomsday. They bring in 3, they fire 1, 2, 3, and then once all 3 Doomsdays are spent and all the cap is gone from those 3 Titans, they bring in the rest of their supers at full cap. So the way that Doomsdays are supposed to work is the Doomsdays are supposed to make it so that when you Doomsday, you drain the cap of everything around you. So you try not to use those new Doomsdays when your whole cap fleet's there. You only use it when you're by yourself. So what they're doing is they're coming in solo, Doomsdaying, bringing in everyone else. And there's actually a screenshot, I'm going to link here in just a second, which shows him, like, completely tackled. Like, he's tackled, he's locked down, he's not going anywhere, he's by himself, and, oh, now they're all dead.
Yikes. Also, thank you, 22Chi,
yeah,
for throwing us some Bezos bucks with the free Twitch Prime subscription. That is the way to go, and you get a crown by your name now. I just think that it's fascinating to see what's happening with the fact that CO2 is getting obliterated repeatedly. Test isn't really using their mainline doctrines, and a lot of these things go back to stuff that we said was going to happen during World War B or the Casino War or the War of Savos Aggression, whatever you want to call it, from the Northwest. We would get up here on the Meta Show and we say this is what's going to happen: is CO2 after flipping sides as being a bunch of traitors. Nobody is really going to fight hard for CO2. Now, there was a bunch of propaganda from the guys on Test, but at the same time, after the initial burst of let's all stand together and fight against this aggression from NCDOT and Test and CO2, best buddies forever, the reality is that nobody really gives a crap about CO2 because they've already flipped sides on their allies in the past, so they're not really going to be trusted as good allies in the future. Now that the Imperium is in Delve, there's really none of these unifying factors that were holding these people together are there anymore. So it's just fascinating. From our perspective in the Imperium, we're watching this up north and just kind of going like, okay, like, whoever loses, we win.
Right, there's no loss here for us, right? It's absolutely hilarious. And the best part about this is CO2 and NCDOT, or Test, are struggling, which is why you saw the Piggles panic message of get safe, your stuff, is because they're losing to NCDOT and Horde alone. There still is big players such as PL and Tissue combined, because Tissue lives with them. Small players like Darkness, TC, all these people, Triumvirate, that PL and NCDOT can call with the snap of a finger, and they come running, right? Now, CO2 does have frenemies, such as Project Mayhem and Snuffbox, but those guys don't really like going into 0-0, and it's very rare to see them in 0-0. So relying on them to come to CO2's aid I don't know how that's going to go. So I'll be interested. The real big decision maker will be when you get to, hey, you're back, is when you get to the Keepstar. Because I don't know if they can take on a Keepstar yet. I mean, that's a risk to a lot of ships. You know, so.
Well, I mean, I don't want to play it up too much because then it might
Yeah.
end up being nothing. But
Done.
one of the things that Fortizars die all the time, right? People figured out pretty rapidly once they were introduced how to handle Fortizars. So those things come and go. But we haven't really seen a serious contest in any capacity involving a Keepstar, which means that nobody really knows what they can or cannot do. So
Well,
it's
the
going to be
Keepstar is
fascinating.
different because see, with Fortizars, you can beat a Fortizar with subcaps, right? And that's fine. But where NC Dot has been winning this war is their super dominance, right? Their ability just to drop the hammer, and that's the fight's over. With a Keepstar, it gets that new Doomsday that can hit 10 targets based on mass, and it does 4 million damage to that first target. And so you have that new Doomsday hit. It can do about 60,000 DPS to one target. It's got capital newts. It's a massive force multiplier. And then you have CO2 subcaps on field. So it'll be interesting to see how that goes. Plus, the Keepstar's range is vastly superior to that of a Fortizar. You're talking hundreds of kilometers wide. You could be on one side of the Fortizar, and the enemy fleet's 300 kilometers away. So, it'll introduce...
You mean the Keepstar, yeah.
Yeah, Keepstar, sorry. So it's massively different than the way it is, so...
I just think it's going to be interesting. So in the meantime, we've got some other reshuffles up there. So we're all just sort of watching and waiting this. And, if NC Dot is in the loser bracket now for the AT, it's entirely possible that their leadership is going to focus more on kicking the crap out of CO2 while everybody else in the galaxy cheers, pretty much. But there's a few other things that have been happening up north. So we had Chaos Theory, which was in Fountain. Has abandoned Fountain. They used to be an SMA, a Space Monkeys, Schism splinter group, and they abandoned Fountain and moved to Declan. Meanwhile, there's been, of course, lots of chaos between what used to be the Guardians of the Galaxy Coalition. Everybody surrounding Sword Dragon is also just this hot mess of drama. But one of the things that I'm just going to point out here and have a little laugh about here is, because he's already prepared for it, in the middle of all of this war stuff, one of the things that the Redditors and our enemies in the Imperium were hoping, they tried to destroy Imperium, then they tried to destroy Goonstorm, and then they tried to go after me personally, because they thought if they couldn't get rid of Goonstorm, they could at least get rid of the Mittani, which is great, all's fair in war, in love and war. And the big move that they all wanted to press F to pay respects for was that they were absolutely convinced that a certain former Alliance CEO, Goonstorm, would be the reason why everybody would drop what they're doing and follow true goons, which is a sort of an amusing little myth that these people have come up with. So here's I'm going to type this here, resignation post. So as of this happened yesterday, I was actually, amusingly enough, considering how much shit was talked about Sion Kumitomo, my former chief of staff, who is still involved in our community, I was out catching up with Sion after TwitchCon, and having a few drinks here in glorious Madison, Wisconsin. And then this little bomb dropped in which, DJ announces that he had never intended it to be a schism and he never planned on leading this and it didn't work out and it's totally everybody else's fault. And so that's all over with. And lo and behold, shockingly enough, once again, as we have said repeatedly from the bully pulpit of the Meta Show, he is, of course, going to scamper off and join PL because that entire schism was always just a PL fun.
You want to have a quick chuckle that makes this even better.
Okay.
He is going to be a lead presenter at EVE Vegas on how to form and maintain a proper empire.
A practical guide to empire building. A practical guide to Empire Alliance building by Darius Johnson, who has now closed his own alliance. Now, to be fair to CCP, this is kind of a thing, is that, they can't really put a presenter up there who has built a great empire of any capacity, because if they had, then there would be cries of favoritism, right? If it was if it was Elise, or if it was Death, there would be, people would say that they were playing favorites. So they can't actually have a real alliance leader get up there and talk about empire building. Otherwise, it'll seem like it's, collusion. But that's a funny little post.
I could see someone when it comes to a topic like that, the first thing I think of is not Darius. Now, Darius kind of fixed some problems that were going on in Goons when I was a newbie, but as far as empire building, you'd think of someone like the old leader of Bob or something like that. Someone who built an empire from the ground up and tried to take over all of EVE, and then, it did its thing. Or like when the coalition was formed with the old Morsis Mihi, that was an empire because it spanned so much space. Or even, like I said, X-Death, you say it's favoritism, but he's built a RMT empire. I mean, that thing is fucking massive. He controls so much of EVE. So... Yeah, the Darius thing kind of had me chuckling. It's just the fact that
I think it's just funny, like the
collapsed.
timing of it. He could have at least kept the. I mean, it was a shell. Like there was nobody logging into that thing,
Right.
and it was basically just a whole bunch of PL people. We had the very few handful of people who left to join the schism when it came. So here's the thing about schisms. This is just like politics tangent here, guys. Every organization that gets larger than Dunbar's number, which is 150 humans, and it's like tribal sociology. Every time you get a group of people larger than Dunbar's number, tribes split and they schism unless there is a layer of bureaucracy and institution. That's how people go from like tribal units to towns, cities, city-states, nations, etc. Is that layer of institutional bureaucracy keeps schisms from happening. So in the case of this, whenever you see this happening in EVE, and you see it happening in EVE constantly, somebody decides they want to lead their own tribe, and they don't have institutions or bureaucracy, which is bad. And so there's nothing to restrain that crap. So the way that we solve that is whenever anybody wants to do a schism, we say, hey, cool, awesome, don't go fuck goons, don't violate any of our rules, go away, God bless, good luck, because a schism actually needs an overreaction from the mother entity in order to make it work. Oddly enough, a perfect example of a schism that was effective was Elitist Ops. And Elitist Ops was generic insult to Mittens here.
Yeah, I wanted to talk about it.
That's excellent. Thank you so much for the money. That's fantastic.
Yeah, so that's the thing too. Is like speaking of Darius and his schism, is that he was the CEO when Elitist Ops did their thing.
He created the Elitist Ops schism by doing the exact overreaction. So when somebody goes to schism, creates a schism, the way that you kill it instantly is they schismatics and martyrs need attention, like fish needs water, basically. So or humans need oxygen. So you essentially starve it by just going, okay, cool, you're going to do a schism, go over there, have fun, good luck, God bless. Unless you feed it by overreacting to it, which is what DJ originally did with Elitist Ops, it's just not going to go anywhere. And so a whole bunch of the people who had left to go, when I say a whole bunch, I mean I think we lost like 5 guys to this amazing thing that was totally going to destroy Goonswarm.
All 5 are back, by the way.
they came back, and I was like, whatever, cool. Like, you didn't go fuck goons, you wanted to play with some of your friends elsewhere, it didn't work out, you came back. And they reported, lo and behold, that the reason why they left was it was just a PL front, and it was just a whole bunch of PL people, and it was just Indy and his other idiots trying to do a thing, and it was actually just, there was none of the promised things were delivered. And so instead of making a big deal about it, we were just shrugged it off, and that was that. The end. Okay, so we've got a couple of other things going on here. Let's see, no PL or tissue involvement in that. We do actually have war happening in the South, actually. There's a lot of things involving CVA.
A lot of
Volt leaving CVA is huge, actually. Boat, do you want to start us off on that?
Yeah, so, well, actually, I wrote it out of order, but Volt hasn't been in, like, the CVA group for a while now. They've been doing their own thing. They were in Kratos for a bit. Now they're in Catch. They've been fighting Lumpy. But something that they did when they left was they decided to stay with the whole CVA, don't shoot anyone that's not red, right?
The NRDS.
They were going with that for a long time. Well, just recently, and within the last week or so, they've changed to our system of not blue shoot it.
And, you mean everybody else in EVE
Online yeah.
Right, basically.
So they changed to that and immediately went into CVA space, started shooting people. Well, when you shoot CVA in their space, they set you KOS. They have an automatic website that controls that, so that lets their people know...
You mean they might shoot back? Wow,
right, it lets their people know who to shoot, not to shoot. Like, you could literally AWOX them all day with neutral characters, and they don't give a fuck. Until they notice the character, and then they put you on this list. Well, now, Volt is on this list. Now, the thing that's interesting about this is that in the war versus Lumpy that Volt has been doing, CVA is the first person to show up to help. And now they're like, yeah, you could get fucked between each other.
Well,
now,
I think that's one of those things with CVA is that they care more about the principles of NRDS, which I do not understand. I mean, basically, when you say that somebody gets rid of NRDS, that means that they are growing up and being an adult in nullsec, because that's the way it works. Yeah. So,
but the thing with CVA is that they've done it for so long that it's like, okay, that's a CVA only thing. Like, I don't think there's anyone else in EVE that actually thinks that it's serious to do it. But another comment that came up was when Volt left. Volt kind of made the joke of, well, nobody wants your space anyway, so who cares? But that leads us to our next thing. With the War of the South, as in like Deep South, Triumvirate versus the Russians, has ended, Tri's got nothing else to do. So what does Tri do? They pick up their toys and deploy to LOSEC. And in their process of deploying to LOSEC, it's right next to CVA, and they've been having a lot of fights. And recent fights, they decided to drop their Chimera Blob versus CVA Nightmares. They had about 30-35 Chimeras versus Nightmares. CVA then drops the hammer, dropping dreads on those Chimeras. Tries the counter drop and gets plastered. They lose like 60 billion, 70 billion worth of dreads.
Wow.
And, CVA doesn't lose much. Then in a fight later, CVA actually brings subcaps versus subcaps versus tri-subcaps and gets plastered. So it's been back and forth fighting. It doesn't look like any solve yet, but it's heating up definitely. So,
well, I mean, this is one of the things that we need to dig a little bit deeper on the CVA thing, because when we're talking about Volt leaving and we're talking about the military capacity of CVA and Praviblock as a whole, the reality is that they have one really top tier FC that everybody knows, and that is Core Blood Brothers, right? He's been on the CSM back in the day. He is extremely dedicated. He's a really good FC. And when we're talking about Praviblock and actually having fighting and how, like, you know, their space isn't all that good, so nobody's going to take it. But also, it's a confluence of factors. Like, one, their space is crap, so it's easier to just let them have an NRDS fishbowl. Who cares? Two, it's got really high ADMs, and nobody likes Fozzie Sov. Period, which is why you see people avoiding it. No matter what Fozzie and crew try to say, everybody hates it. Sorry, not sorry. Three, Core Blood Brothers would lead the Praviblock fleet. So whenever there was a block level of threat, you would end up with all of these guys together under Core Blood Brothers. And when if you have Praviblock and Volt parting ways, that means that Praviblock no longer has their block level FC that is actually a defender of that region.
Yeah, and
so Volt leaving CVA is extremely significant because it means that Core Blood Brothers is off the chessboard for CVA and Praviblock.
Yeah, so Core says here, it says someone says in chat, Core said earlier today that Volt and CVA have an unwritten agreement. They'll support each other in serious attacks. But let me tell you from my experience of all of these so-called blue, not blue,
actually,
shoot each other.
before you get into
yay,
that,
better all.
I'm sorry, my phone overheated. Everything's gone wrong to get on this show.
Do you have a
so
Samsung? Did you set off? Did your phone explode?
No, I have an iPhone. It just overheated.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So sorry about that. I'm sorry about my anyway, technical problems.
Right.
He was on the show. We're moving Talking in Stations to 1 on Saturdays, 1 p.m. UTC time.
Oh.
And we had Core Blood on it today, and he was talking about the war. So that's probably where that information came from.
Ah, okay.
That's excellent. Let's make sure that we get the schedule updated. So that is one of the things we'd really do. Like, Talking in Stations is a fantastic show. I think if it's 1 o'clock UTC, that means how many hours ago was that then? Like in. Like, what is
that was 2, 7. I don't know. I woke up at 6 a.m., so that was about.
Yikes.
6 hours. I woke up at 5 a.m.
That's early in the morning. Holy
wow, that's dedication. Well, it's good because you can actually get some Euro guys.
Yeah, that's 6 a.m.
Yeah,
that would be.
I can get CCP in there, and I can get some Euro guys if they will show up. And it looks like we had a really good turnout. It was actually bigger than the Friday night show on its very first run with no publicity.
Wow.
So looking forward to having a better grasp of, and I'm going to be a lot more consistent because Fridays, it's Friday night. So
that would be 8 a.m. for you, the Matani. 8 a.m.
Okay, so Saturday is funny because I get up pretty early and I end up having lots of, like, we've got a lot of director meetings and things on Saturday and the Meta Show, 8 in the morning. Yikes, that's tough. But it's good though because we don't have we have some gaps in our Euro streaming. And one of the things I'm pretty excited about with the channel as a whole is Robson has been Skeptic Nerd Guy has been looking into a lot of things like unifying our overviews and making sure our schedule is much more consistent. So I really like the idea of Talking in Stations on a Saturday slot. That's just, I think, better for everyone.
Yeah, and
yeah, we're excited.
So yeah, the CVA thing is interesting because, again, in my feeling on Blue Not Blue, or when you tell each other, hey, we'll help you in serious timers, but other times we'll shoot each other, is it develops a hate inside the member base, right? Eventually you'll get the line members who eventually start leading fleets and start to take over the show for other people. They hate the other side. Like, it's like, hey, what the fuck are they killing my ratting ship? How am I going to help? I'm not going to go help them later. And you develop this little problem that just festers. And unless you're blue or straight up not helping each other at all, it becomes a problem. And it's always happened that way. And I don't think that's going to help CVA at all. CVA is known for having this core group of people who live there and are always there. Like, Volt was one of them. And with Volt gone, that chops them in half. Because I think Volt.
Well, I mean, the question is, like, I mean, they're still fighting Lumpy, right? So, I mean, if what Core Brothers was saying on the show is true, that they're still going to have an agreement. I do think that Boat is right in that the NRDS mentality is so key to the identity of Praviblock that Volt going their own way, even if they have agreements under the table to make sure that everything is defended, is going to result in a lot of friction about the line members. So, because people who are staying in Praviblock, that's what defines them as being unique, special, and different compared to everybody else in EVE. So that is a hot mess all the way around. Do we want to talk about the Rorqual changes, because we're heading up towards the end of the show?
Yeah, let's do that. The Rorqual change, for those of you that haven't been watching, are pretty...
Well,
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
If I can interrupt you, sorry, if I can
Yeah, no,
interrupt
you're
you for
fine,
a
you're fine.
second. We covered them for 2 hours on the Talking in Stations Friday show, which was last night. So you
Right.
can find them also on TMC here.
Oh,
But
okay.
we had some 3 miners from Deep Space who've been playing since 2003. We had Sullen, who was a big part of the CSM that actually molded a lot of the changes that happened with Orca and the Porpoise, as well as the Rorqual. So it was a good show with a lot of information. So, but yeah, take it away.
Yeah. No,
Well, actually,
no, no.
why don't you tell us? Why don't you tell
Yeah,
us
go
what
ahead.
the conclusions were from the show?
Yeah.
Oh, well, there's a huge. I mean, actually, I think you kind of have to listen to it. I hate to say that, but there's so much information that it's hard to figure out what the takeaways were. Except this, that you are no longer a wasted presence when you're just boosting. You're actually going to be able to mine as well as an exhumer. So it's going to be like an exhumer plus all the boosts that you give to everybody around you.
Yeah.
I'm wondering about the speed of the drones, though. That's one of the things that our finance people were saying, is that the drones themselves are very slow. However, the 10 light year Rorqual has a number of fascinating strategic implications, right? So it just from a broader level beyond like mining, the fact that you can now service towers, because most logistics organizations use Rorquals and not prefer to use Rorquals instead of jump freighters to service towers across the game. So that's going to be a whole thing. They have great tanks. They can smart bomb like crazy.
Oh, yeah,
In many ways, they remind me of like the old school ratting chimeras that you used to see. So I would be shocked if you didn't see not only combat Rorquals, but people doing smart bomb ratting in Rorquals. And they have the tank of a fax machine. I don't know how people missed this, but it's pretty crazy
It's
shit.
not even smart bombing. Like, I wouldn't do that. Sorry. But
Please,
this
go ahead.
is I could see this because the 10 light year range is so huge. Like, it's as much as a jump freighter, and that range is massive. It's higher than a Black Ops battleship. And because of its tank of a fax and the fact that they fit so many smart bombs, you'll see like groups like 10 of these things dropping on a gate and just smart bombing. And now you've got a whole pipe bombing. And that 10 light years can cover all of Delve. Right? I can literally sit in the middle of our space and hit all of Delve and most of Aquarius from D-W with 10 light years. It's going to be absolutely hilarious.
That may happen, but one of the things that was made very clear is that CCP is very actively watching how this is used, and if it starts to get used in that way, they'll take action. So they're very aware of that possibility.
Well, they say that, but I don't believe that for a second, because they said that they were going to do things that take action to make the soft system suck less, and we've been waiting for a long-ass time on that. So, that is one of the things, like the best of intentions whenever a ship is added in any way, but the people who are going to be using lots of Rorquals probably won't be talking about it all that much. I mean, like if it turns out that it's really good for people, all that means when CCP says don't do anything with this or else, one, they probably won't do anything for a long ass time, and two, by putting that marker there instead of just quietly monitoring, like what they should do is just quietly monitor it and not make a big deal about be careful with your Rorquals, mommy and daddy are watching, because that just means that people will not report the feedback. They'll just go like...
Well, to be fair, CSM was saying that CCP is, so it's the kind of hearsay. I don't know what CCP said.
Yeah, last week they talked about this, actually, speaking of like a little segue to the FozzieSoft thing, is that during the CSM, it was a unanimous CSM in the sense that CCP came to them and said, look, should we look at FozzieSoft, should we look at changing this, fixing it, or should we proceed to get these industrial things done and get these new things done? And the CSM was unanimous in, like, finish the new things, otherwise you'll never get to them. So that was a pretty concise thing that came out of last week's Meta Show. So
we're gonna have to see how that all works out. One of the things that is interesting. So we have actually, Matterall, please continue. It sounded like you had something else.
Sorry.
Oh, I didn't. I accidentally hit something. But I will say this, that CCP does give a lot of lead time for people for things to settle down. Like the Sveeple went, unnerfed for a very long time.
Right.
Because first of all, they want to give people who can discover things an advantage for a little while to enjoy it.
How long was the advantage that we had for a little while with the Sveeple?
That was a bit long, I'm pretty sure.
I mean,
but that was the kind of
AOE Doomsdays.
Right. And but they do let that go a little too long. And then the second thing is they say that meta shifts a lot. So, you never know if people come up with their own solution to the problem.
That's true, because we've seen for years now, we totally haven't seen T3 cruisers, T3 armor cruisers being the dominant subcapital meta for ever. The meta does shift very rapidly. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, is that back in the day they had much better iteration all the way around, and Matterall is a very kind and gentle person compared to me, because I'm a just sort of jerk in a red shirt. So I have repeatedly slammed CCP when they don't actually iterate on things. Like the Svipple was cancer forever, right?
yeah.
I haven't like gotten a memo that says that this Svipple has stopped being cancer.
Well,
Maybe
they're
it was
nerfing
fixed when I
it.
was at
It's
Twitch
coming.
Prime.
It's coming.
So it hasn't actually been
Yeah,
fixed yet,
it's
but they're
coming.
totally going to change it.
Well, no, they've
and-
already changed what they're doing with it. They're going to remove a mid slot. They're going to turn it into an armor ship. So like you have to decide going
So
forward.
that took them 2 years. I mean,
yeah,
how long ago was it that the damn
yeah.
thing
Well, the
came
thing
out?
is, they nerfed the confessor.
They nerfed the confessor
pretty fast.
relatively rapidly, right?
Yeah.
That's the thing. It's like so all this stuff about how the reality of the situation is that CCP has only so many people working on the game. Right, they've got a lot of people who are in Shanghai working on Gunjack 2. They have this whole Valkyrie thing in Newcastle, and the number of active teams on EVE Online is simply not that much. So in terms of bandwidth and throughput, it just doesn't really seem like there was that much attention to it. They fixed the confessor, and then there's no excuse for the Svipple. Like you can come casting around for okay, well we iterated on the confessor very rapidly, and then let the Svipple thing happen forever because of reasons, and all the reasons you're going to get are just excuses like. Whatever. Thankfully, I'm the jerk in the red shirt, so I get to say these things that everybody else is thinking. But speaking about being a jerk in a red shirt, I wanted to segue now to something else that is near and dear to my heart. Yes, and the Ishtar Dragon's owner, Dragon
Oh yeah, that took forever.
Zero, is a total good example of a ship. The Ishtar, the Sentry drones, the whole Wrecking Ball thing, all of that was just left hanging for a long ass time. So. Jerk and Red Shirt, name-related segue. I'm delighted we introduced to the Imperium as a whole, but we haven't really spread it around that much because our devs are working overtime, to essentially get rid of the Mittani.com as a name and as a website. So we've got this pretty cool little website that I want to show you guys. It's on WordPress now. Matterall has helped design an awful lot of it, working together with Caesar, Keyboard 2000, who is one of our guys. Amazing WordPress dev, along with Gravecorp. And so they've been busting ass on this. And, when we launched the Mittani.com, oddly enough, one of the people who was saying that we should name it the Mittani.com instead of Internet Spaceship News, which was our working, INN or ISN, something or other like that, was Indy, who, of course, loudly betrayed us and ran off to PL to hurl all the worst about how the Imperium was going to be destroyed. So one of the very last legacies that we have here is having my name, Jerk in a Red Shirt, on this website, which has always felt a little weird and narcissistic. I am arrogant as hell, but the website is supposed to be a voice for our people and the Imperium and what we're doing, not, hey, everybody look at me. So it's great. We have Imperium.news, and what we want people to do before we start redirecting people from TMC to Imperium News is, kick the tires on it. One of the coolest features about Imperium News, if you go onto any article you have here, so here's a piece that Arendis wrote about the Clone States dev blog. You'll notice that's more professional because people are actually beginning to use their real names. And on any article that we write on Imperium News, you don't actually have to be a member of the staff. You can write a response to it and use the same interface as anybody who's actually part of the staff. So if you read one of these articles and you go, holy crap, I'm angry about it, I read a battle report and they got it wrong, this is what really happened, you can use at the end of every article, there's a link to what I just put there, and get out your side of the story, and it'll go into the same editorial queue. So I'm really pumped about it. Development has gone fantastically, and I'm just really excited to get away from the Mittani.com and Mittani this, Mittani that. We will probably end up changing the name of the Twitch channel. This is sort of the transition period that we're in. So check it out and let us know your feedback, if it's awesome or if it's awful. So
yeah. So someone just linked in chat a second ago, Godzilla, who's a member of Nautilus Secondarius Lupin, which is the PL Hot Dropper group with Rocket X. They just lost to Nyx recently in Great Wildlands again.
Initiative Sister Bliss strikes again.
They keep catching those supers. It's kind of hilarious down there. But yeah, I'm excited about Imperium News. But to go back real quick to the mining changes, it's not just the Rorqual that's getting a change. One of the things I did notice is that one of the most used boosting ships is the Orca. And from what I was reading, the Orca is getting a 90% reduction in jump bridge usage. So it's going to be able to be...
You mean fatigue?
Fatigue,
90% fatigue reduction. So you can jump it through like a blockade runner.
Yeah,
basically.
So you're going to be able to use an Orca as a hauler as much as a freighter, but if you need to get boost somewhere, or if you need to grab the loot and bring it back, instead of having to jump your Rorqual out, now you can just bridge the Orca out and use that less fatigue to go places. So it's getting the same thing that the jump freighter currently has, which is pretty amazing. I'm excited for that.
Fantastic.
Yeah,
also
really
the Rorqual's getting that too.
Well, Rorqual, yeah.
That's right.
So the hot drops with the Rorqual, that's going to be the thing. There's people been talking about it in Elysium since it was announced. But hot dropping with Rorquals is going to be... I'm training an alt into a Rorqual that can use a Chimera now because it's going to replace some of the things that I've been wanting to do. It's just going to be hilarious.
So people
I think-
looking for more information about all of these funky things here, we're going to go ahead and
Yeah, I have
just
links
link that.
for
So again,
all. Yeah.
here's the Imperium News article on all of the mining boost changes and the analysis, the dev blog, so you can take a look at the porpoise and all that. Matterall, you're about to say?
The
Sorry.
porpoise actually fits inside the Orca, which is kind of interesting. So you can carry around your boosting ship.
Yeah.
So what is the main purpose of a porpoise?
That's
Say that
actually
3 times fast.
the amazing thing that can do is it can go into shattered wormholes where frigates go. It has that light of mass, which means you can now ice mine with boosts inside of those things if you're using, or gas. I think there's gas in there, and it speeds up
Yeah.
your gas.
So
So that's pretty amazing.
it's
But
kind
yeah,
of
the purpose is to
I'm sorry.
boost. The purpose is to boost and for smaller crews, so people can climb into those things quicker than climb into an Orca or an Oracle, and you can actually have boosts relatively quickly.
Yeah, it'll be like if you've seen the new jump destroyers, they can give gang bonuses for small fleets. It'll be like that. So instead of having to buy a really expensive, really giant Orca, you can then get a little ship that can do it also. So
Do we think that we're actually going to see like combat orcas? I mean, with all the drone bonus and everything else, like, is it actually going to be worthwhile to do that, or is that, I suppose if you're going to buy an orca, you might as well have a combat Rorqual, which will be better at combat, presumably.
Well, that's what I heard. At first, I heard a lot about combat Orcas, and then it started shifting to combat Rorquals, and that's kind of
Because a
where it's at now.
Rorqual can kind of jump, right?
Well,
that kind of
yeah.
makes a little
with
bit of a
this
difference.
change too, fax machines are no longer going to be needed for soft hacking. It's going to be a Rorqual because it's got the reduction in jump range
Yep.
or fatigue.
It's got better
It's
combat.
got better jump range, better combat, so he can fight while
Yep.
boosting, and it's
Yep.
shield tanked, which shield tank is just better. At
It
tanking
can
everything,
actually
so.
do things, yeah. So that is actually a major piece of the strategic meta that we probably
Right.
should have lit onto right at the start of this. So thank you both. That was fantastic.
Yeah, that is huge
This is
change.
the end of the fax hacker. You are not going to see
Yeah.
fax hackers anymore. So I mean, just for people who are unaware of what a fax hacker is, because the gameplay for FozzieSov is so utterly engaging, all of the nullsec powers hate it and try to avoid actually dealing with it at subcaps at all. So we all use fax hackers, which are fax machines, the carriers, force auxiliaries, to do the extra 10-minute timer just to get it done, to deal with the Entosis crap that everyone in EVE Online despises. I have yet to find somebody who will pop up and honestly say, I really enjoy and seek out Entosis gameplay, it's fantastic, because they don't.
Yeah, one other thing
But
too,
it's going to be replaced by the Rorqual, because the Rorqual can do everything that a fax machine can do, but better. It has the same effective tank, but it can actually fight back. It has a much better range, so instead of having that much jump fatigue, you can just jump your Rorquals to a combat zone, set them up on the nodes, get them going. They can defend themselves far better than a fax machine, and they have no jump fatigue bullshit.
Oh, and it gets even better. The Rorqual's invincible. Here's why.
Yes, that
so
helps.
the Rorqual,
They can't hack when they're doing it, I don't think, but
well,
if
no,
they
they
ever
can't.
really get in trouble.
But if shit goes really bad, they light a Sino and press a button, and their Sino can be lit while they're invincible, and any mining ships around them. So, like, if you're mining with like 2 Rorquals,
I'm
and
not
2
sure.
miners.
Sorry, I hate
sorry.
to take the wind out of your sail. I am not
Oh,
sure that you
there's-
can light the Sino yet. I don't know what the status of that is.
can light the Sino
well, the
beforehand,
last
I
thing
believe.
the last thing CCP said is you
They
can light
haven't-
the Sino and then come back, but they might have changed that. But
I'm pretty sure it's not decided yet. That's
Yeah.
what we learned from CSM.
I think it was the
regardless
07.
regardless of that,
Yeah.
in a situation when you're using Rorquals as a
You just
strategic
become
asset to do
invincible.
fax hacking, that means that you're going to have Sino ships around them. So if they really do get into trouble, they can go into invulnerability mode for 7 minutes, and you can just burn a Sino over there on
Yeah,
top of it, because
yeah.
you'll have your fleets in the zone,
It-
and there
It's
you go.
just, the Rorqual is the new soft hacker. That's just the way it is. It's just
It can
way
jump
better.
out from panic, according to Erox, which is fantastic. I mean, by fantastic, I mean hilarious. They do all this mining design decisions, and yet the one thing that anyone involved in Sov Nullsec does is the moment that CCB adds anything to the game that might allow us to avoid the fantastic FozzieSov gameplay, we're like, oh, Jesus Christ, whatever we can do to free ourselves from this misery. So yeah, there you go. So
Yeah,
thank
it's-
you for the Rorqual, which might make FozzieSov slightly less awful.
It'll
for
be
everyone.
interesting to see. I'm excited. I haven't been excited for a new a ship adjustment, and the Rorqual's been needing a ship adjustment for years. So it's going to be absolutely hilarious.
Yeah, it's like
Um,
7 minutes of invulnerability.
yeah,
in Dragon's
it's
Den.
up to
Like,
7.5,
it's crazy.
So
Which
and-
is just nuts. I mean, that's
which
an
is even better
eternity.
too, because during the industrial core mode, that's a 10-minute cycle. So if, say, you get dropped on 5 minutes in, you hit your invulnerability, and you're going to come out of that core mode, and you have 7.5 minutes to call for help. And that's a
Right.
long time in this game, especially if you have
Oh
a fleet
yeah,
already
it's
active.
an eternity.
Yeah, so That's a huge deal. I'm super excited. Oh, I'm so excited.
This is all for the November update.
Right.
Bubba Cho was asking the question, and that the November update is going to hit on the 12th, I believe. So right around the corner, shortly after we all get back and begin recovering from our hangovers in Vegas. And actually, that'll be hitting right in the middle of, I think right at the start of Eamsterdam, which will be that weekend.
Right. It's the week before my birthday. I'm excited about that. So.
Indeed, happy birthday!
Yeah,
Well,
so,
speaking of happy birthdays, we are getting near to the end of the show, and I just wanted to find out, what do we have coming up next? Are we doing a shout chat next?
So shout chat, Kickler can't be here for that, so we're gonna postpone shout chat till next week. So the boat show will start immediately, and we'll just do
boat
2 hours
show.
of the boat show. So yeah, thanks Matterall for coming by. Also, this week's been kind of crazy for me. I want to point out that I found something on my chest that looks like a mole, but I don't know what it is because it's never been there before, and I've been freaking out for like 3 days. So I'm going to see a doctor next week, and we'll see what that is. But
is it like one of these?
No, it's it looks like a mole, but I don't believe I've ever had a mole in my chest. So it's like, what the fuck? So yeah, I've been in like a little bit of.
Maybe it's another nipple.
Oh God, don't even start. It's like right here, and it's. Yeah, of course people made jokes of it. My parents and my girlfriend, they made jokes. They're like, "Oh, it'll be fine," and but we'll see. So yeah, thanks for stopping by, guys. We are out of time.
Good luck with your third day.
Hey!
Also, Akasha
Twitch
Aware,
Prime,
thank you so much
thank
for
you.
giving us some Bezos bucks.
Yeah, thanks, Matterall.
Bezos
Seriously,
bucks.
thank you for coming by. I know you've been busy with family. It was a little last minute, so thank you very much. So appreciate that. And bye, guys.
Anytime, boat. Bye bye.
Yeah.
See you next week. Enjoy the boat show. The boat show.
You are about to receive messages that may be harmful to your mental state. Your sense of reality will be questioned. Your view on things will be altered. You are now part of the Meta. The Meta controls everything. The Meta determines what will and will not happen. You are watching The Meta Show.